Hello, everyone, and welcome to every Mario Kart 8 Deluxe course ranked part 2. Today we'll be going from number 64 to number 33 on the ranking. And yeah, let's just get straight into it. We remember, if you remember, last time we were in the middle of B tier. So now we're going to move on and continue with B tier, maybe get some A tiers in, maybe even get to S tier. I don't know. We'll see where this takes us. At 64, we have GCN Baby Park. Now, Baby Park in this game is nowhere near as good as the original Baby Park, considering there's no giant items flying everywhere for there to be, because Bowser Shell, Giant Banana, Chain Chomp, those aren't all those items are gone by this game. So it's definitely not as good. Plus, Mario Kart 8, the characters are a lot smaller. But this track is still a pretty fun Baby Park, considering the fact they brought back the 7 laps. There's still some fun to be had and some items flying around, but it's definitely nowhere near as good as the original. It's still a pretty good track, which is what lands it in the B tier. Yeah, and some of the stuff they did here is also benefits it, like the fact that they made the whole track anti-gravity was pretty interesting, making it so you don't bump into people, you spin off of them, get boosts, which would just make you fly into more items, which definitely does add to the cast, especially now that there's 12 racers instead of 8. That also adds to it, but I feel like this version of Bay Park is still not as good as the original because there's no giant items. At 63, we have Choco Mountain. And Choco Mountain, in this game, is probably the best version of Choco Mountain we've ever seen. Now, this version of Choco Mountain is themed after a mines, which is a pretty cool concept for Choco Mountain. It's a really good race course with the nice cave section added in. It's still a pretty simplistic one, but the cave section at least adds enough to it to make it more interesting than any other version, including the Mario Kart World version, which I always think will always be worse than this version, the Choco Mountain. At 62, we have Berlin Byways, and Berlin Byways is another city track. This city track is pretty fun with some good theming, but lap 2 in this track is very dull. See, lap 1, you drive through a train station, you drive through a lot of things, and on lap 3, you drive past the Berlin Wall with all the womps falling. But in lap 2, it's just kind of a boring driving course, which is definitely what brings this track down. It probably would be an A tier if lap 2 wasn't as big a deal. Also, like that they start with Berlin Byways 2. I know Berlin Byways 2 released first into Mario Kart Tour before Berlin Byways, but Berlin Byways 1 is still a simpler course, so it doesn't make any sense why they start with Berlin Byways 2 on the lap count. It's weird, which is definitely what brings this track down to B tier. At 61, we have Boo Lake, and Boo Lake is a pretty interesting course. It's a good remake of the good old-fashioned Ghost Valley / Boo Lake / Broken Pier themed course with all the ghost tracks. It's a pretty good ghost track with new underwater section that wasn't in the original. Everyone always complains about the fact that there's no lake in the original. But it's a GBA. What do you want them to do on the Game Boy Advance to make it look like there's a lake? Anyway, now that you drive into the lake and the added elevation does make this track definitely a little bit more fun. But it still is a simple course, which is why it doesn't really get much higher. It's also kind of too short. At 60, we have GameCube Sherbet Land, which is a pretty underrated course. It's definitely better in this game with the new underwater sections that are added in, but it still is GCN Sherbet Land, a pretty good, nice snow track that is actually very fun. Uh, it also just has this nice, calm vibes. It makes it for a pretty good track, which is why GameCube Sherbet Land is always so good, and N64 Sherbet Land, the Nintendo 64 version of Sherbet Land, is always so bad because that one's not good. But like we already talked about that twice. You can go watch the Mario Kart 64 ranking or the Mario Kart Wii ranking to hear my opinions on N64 Sherbet Land. At 59, we have Calamari Desert. Now, most people put this version of the track in S tier, especially since now you can drive through the train tracks. Calamari Desert 1, though, is still a part of this track, and it's a very bad track, Calamari Desert 1. It's kind of not that good, the first Calamari Desert. But Calamari Desert 2's add-on part, I wish it was just a whole track. I wish you just did 3 laps of Calamari Desert 2 for Mario Kart Tour. It could be cool. The tunnel wouldn't have to count your lap. It would be a fun track. But I feel like the first lap of this track definitely brings it down to B tier. I would put an A tier or maybe even S tier if the first lap of this track wasn't involved. Because the first lap of this track kind of ruins it for me. which is what brings it down to the B tier instead of putting it in a higher tier. 58, we have DS Shroom Ridge, a pretty interesting highway course with a few added shortcuts from the original compared to the original version. I wish there was more stuff to do though, and the cars in the original are definitely much bigger and are also going two separate ways on the road instead of both going the same way, which makes more sense and makes for a better track. This version of the track isn't bad; it's still pretty good. It's just nowhere near as good as the original because the original there was a lot more traffic on this track. The track still is pretty fun, and the new added shortcuts are pretty good, but the original still has the cars going two separate ways, which definitely makes the original a better track. At 57, we have DS Mario Circuit, which is a pretty good track, just like in the original. It's definitely better than the original version, though, with the added wiggler section in the forest. It's a very nice track. It's pretty difficult as far as Mario Circuits go, just like in the DS version. It's definitely not as difficult as the Mario Kart DS version, considering the fact that Mario Kart DS has had more difficult controls, but it's still a pretty good track. Um, this track is really good, and it's definitely better because of the forest section than the original. There's also some fun shortcuts you can take, and the windy road makes it more difficult than most Mario circuits. 56, we have Merry Mountain, the Christmas theme track that everyone doesn't like. I don't really like this course. I like it. It's still a good course. It has nice Christmas vibes. The first of this track is great. Then you just drive down the mountain, and it's kind of just a boring straightaway that brings you down the mountain. I wish they just did a giant glider section at the end that just brought you down the mountain completely, so you didn't have to go over that whole part. But other than that, this track is pretty good. It's just that final section that definitely ruins it. Also, if you look at the map of this track, it looks just like Mario Circuit 1's map, which doesn't help it. But yeah, Mushroom Bridge also has that map though. So, it's not really the map's fault that a track is bad ever, except for this one because of the boring straightaway at the end. At 55, we have Wii Coconut Mall. This version of Coconut Mall is definitely the worst version of Coconut Mall to date, but it's still fine. It's still a good course. The escalators have these arrows on it now that are much more obvious. Market 7 did have the arrows, but they were very faint, so you didn't really notice them. At least this mall doesn't feel empty like the Market 7 version, but they got rid of like most things. The arches at the end, the car section is not there anymore, and also they made this mall feel very cartoony. The first two Coconut Malls were trying to make it feel like realistic, like you're driving through a real mall in real life, besides the weird cheese grater stairs, but no one talks about those. And then this version's like, nah, we're gonna make it like a cartoony mall. Also, this was supposed to be the Me track, the tracks for the Mii's. The like Wii characters, the Mii's. There's supposed to be a track themed around there. It's supposed to be their course. Because they're like all over the original. They're not in Market 7, but that's just because of the limitations of 3DS. Here they decided to make it no Mii's and only like Piantas and Toads and Nokis and Yoshis. The normal background guys, which definitely also in this track take a turn for the worse. Also, the car section is just not as good anymore with two cars that are doing donuts and there's no boost panels. They are the most genius section in a Mario Kart track and replaced it with just like boring cars go spin. At 54, we have Wii Daisy Circuit, which is kind of better than the original here, actually. Finally, track that's better than the original. This one is just better than the original because it has a few more jumps and added boost panels near the end. But other than that, it's pretty much very similar track to the original, and there's not much that's ruining this track compared to its original counterpart. Both are very good tracks, or pretty good B tier tracks, very solid tracks, and pretty good circuit tracks. So, yeah, this track is pretty good, and that's what ranks it at 54. 53, we have SNES Rainbow Road, which is pretty much the same as the original, which is kind of a missed opportunity considering the remakes of the Super Circuit courses in this game, which go insane. Compared to it, this is just like, eh. It's just the Market 7 track, and I don't understand why they need to bring this track back. It just feels useless here when the Market 7 version is basically the same exact track. Why'd they even bring this back? It doesn't make any sense. They could have brought back GBA Rainbow Road, an infinitely better course, and it would be really cool to see that track again. But no, and they still didn't bring back Market World. Can they ever bring GBA Rainbow Road or any of the other Rainbow Roads? They're just done with Rainbows, I feel like. Now we got Moonview Highway. Moonview Highway is still pretty good, but nowhere near as good as the original. The original had so many vehicles, and you get flattened if you got run over by trucks. This version of that track decided, nope, we're not doing that, and just decided not to do that. This track is definitely way less good than the original, but it's still a fun time. And the boost panels are a very fun thing to drive through. At 1, we have Twisted Mansion, and this track is kind of overhated. People hate on this track way too much. They're like, the theming's too boring, but in reality, there's only one other, up to this point, of course, Boost Cinema's pretty similar to Twisted Mansion, but that's not Twisted Mansion's fault. There's only one track up to this point that is actually a track themed after, like, the booze, uh, or themed after, like, a ghost mansion, right? Because Luigi's Mansion on the DS, which is actually not that good and doesn't even take place in the mansion. It's a very this track is very unique. It's very unique, and it's weird that they didn't do this theme up until 2014. It took them many years to do this theme, but whatever. It's a kind of fun course. There's definitely some simplicity. I don't really like the water section. It just feels out of place and kind of random. And it's kind of, there's not much to this track, but it's still kind of fun. So yeah. At 50, we have Rosalina's Ice World. Rosalina's Ice World in this game is kind of similar to the original one, but it's definitely like still. Mm, it's still kind of, there's still some very simple sections, but it is better than the original because of the added shortcut at the end, and also the fact that they said add half pipes to it. But pretty fun additions to this course that was already kind of okay. It was kind of good, but now it's still kind of good, but it's more kind of good. That totally makes sense. Let's move on. 49, we got DS Peach Gardens, and this track is definitely nowhere near as good as the original. I know, you go backwards on the last lap. Big whoop. That's why the only thing keeping this from going any lower, because this track was oversimplified. There is, like, yeah, it's way too simple. Now, they got rid of, like, half the hedge maze counterpart because now the track is very clear on where you need to go, which was, like, the best part of this track was that, like, it was kind of crazy, and it felt like a maze, and now it just doesn't, which is why this track definitely doesn't rank as high as the original version. I don't care that the last lap you go backwards. I guess that makes this track a little better, but like it would have been even better if they kept the original layout instead of simplifying it. At 48, we have Singapore Speedway. Now, this is a hot take, but Singapore Speedway isn't as good as people say it is. Okay? I just got to say this right now. Singapore Speedway just isn't that good. Okay? It's like It's, like, fun. It's too short, though. That's, like, lap 1 is literally an oval. You glide up to the pool, you glide down, and that's the whole lap. Lap 2 is a little more interesting with Chinatown and stuff, but that's all lap 2 is. Then you glide across, and lap 3 is just conveyor belts in the ending section. I feel like this track definitely could have had more done with it, and also, it's still a good track, but and the song is pretty good, but, um it's like there's still not much to it. Or I don't know. There's much to it, but it's like very short. And this track feels like it's too short. It feels like it ends too soon, especially since it's like so fun that it's like, why is it ending this soon? It feels like it's way too short, and the lap 1 is literally just an oval, which I don't want to do any like, oh, it's an oval, that means it must be bad, but I don't know. It's just not as good as people say it is. It's overhyped. It's overrated. Yeah, let me move on now. At 47, we have Hyrule Circuit, which is the Legends of Zelda theme track and the crossover DLC. Our first crossover course of this ranking, and this course is a pretty fun circuit track. It's one of the better circuit tracks, but some people don't even count it as a circuit track because is it really a circuit track? Hyrule Circuit is fun. You drive through the castle. It's like but it definitely does get a little boring near the end, and it definitely doesn't feel like I don't know, it's definitely pretty simple, and it's also a circuit course, so it can't really rank outside of B tier because it's still a very simple circuit course, yeah. At 46, we have GCN Yoshi Circuit, the best circuit course in Mario Kart. And this circuit course is definitely still as good as or similar in goodness to the original. The original is still better because that's that like one shortcut that they took out, and also, I don't know, it's just I feel like the theming, I don't know, the GameCube just has better aesthetics in their Mario Kart tracks. This track is still really fun, and it's still shaped like a Yoshi, and it's still such a good track. Yeah. Honestly, it's really hard to ruin this track considering the whole layout's a Yoshi. If you, like, oversimplified it, then, like, it wouldn't be shaped like a Yoshi anymore, that would just ruin Yoshi's circuit. So yeah, so there's not really any way to ruin this one. So it's still pretty good. 5, we have Vancouver Velocity, which used to be a fan favorite city course until Mario Kart 8 Deluxe brought it into its game. You see, the first lap of the track is great, peak, a very amazing lap. So fun, you drive up through the mountains, you drive around a bunch of bridges, you glide back down. Then lap 2 is kind of less good. It's like you drive through the city, it's like, okay, but it feels just like another city course. And lap 3 is awful. You just drive through a tunnel and then you do the same lap 2 thing again. What I would do to fix this track is you do lap 1's the same, Vancouver Velocity 1. Lap 2, you go through the city. Lap 3, you come back up into the mountains and do the exact lap 1 again. I don't know. It just doesn't feel as good because of lap 3 ruining the track and lap 2 just being not as good as lap 1. It's like a lot of people used to really like this course because back when Vancouver Velocity 1 was the only Vancouver Velocity, it was a good track, but then they've made sequels which weren't as good as the original. And then they decided to make them new laps in this Mario Kart 8 adaptation of the track, which is kind of what ruined the track. 44, we have Neo Bowser City, a track that everyone hates on because it's too slippery. Oh man, it's too difficult. That one turn is too hard. I've survived that turn a lot, okay? I can take that turn probably pretty simply. And it's like if you're bad at that turn, just get better at the game, bro. It's like you're the one who's bad at the game if you think that turn is difficult. I mean, it's still difficult, but difficulty is good. But I feel like the reason why I rank this track only in B tier and not like higher is because it's too simple. There's not much going on besides the slippery turns. Like it's kind of just Bowser Circuit, I'd say. It's like yeah, I get there's like a bunch of difficult turns, but there's not much on this track besides that. It's just turns. I don't know. There's nothing too special about Neo Bowser City, but it's still definitely overhated. At 43, we have Bowser's Castle, which is it's a good Bowser's Castle. There's some good elements to it, but there are no thwomps in this Bowser's Castle, which is kind of just sad. Like thwomps, they're like what Bowser's Castle tracks are like known for, and they're just not here. I guess Thwomp Ruins existing makes up for it, but it doesn't really. I don't know. This track just like it's very simple. Like there's stuff to it. It's like you drive, but there's a lot of just random obstacle, or there's a few obstacles. Bowser punching the sides, but I feel like a lot of this track he's kind of just driving. And I don't know. Nintendo usually fumbles when it comes to Bowser's Castles, except for a select few, which are actually pretty good. It's weird. 42, we have Madrid Drive, which is a pretty fun city track. I don't like how long it takes for you to get to the football, the soccer stadium in this track. But it's like um it's on the third lap, which is weird because it was in Madrid Drive 1. This track is definitely a little repetitive. There's definitely some stuff that makes it not that good, but it's still a pretty fun track and a pretty good send off to the city courses as a whole. I don't understand why they picked Madrid over something that's actually like I don't know in like Latin America because Nintendo just doesn't do Latin America tracks or Africa tracks, which is pretty weird. But yeah, let's just move on. Now we're on to the A tiers. Here we go. We're making our way up this ranking. Okay, well let's get into it. At 41, we have Excite Bike Arena. A pretty fun track with so many fun jumps that are randomized every time. This track's just so fun, just jumping and jumping and jumping and jumping. It's just so fun to jump and just take all those jumps. It's a really fun track for that reason. And it's also a pretty fun theme track after that one Nintendo Super Nintendo, or no, not Super Nintendo, NES game that's like about like the motorcycles and like the fact that there's actually like bikes in Mario Kart, which this makes it feel it's a good track. Yeah, I get it's just an oval, but like it's a good oval. There's so many jumps on this thing. At 40, we have Bangkok Rush, one of the most underrated city courses. You're like, oh, it's worse than the tour version. They got rid of the ink piranha plants. Ink piranha plants. Don't they just like cover your screen like a blooper? And doesn't everyone hate the blooper? Also, oh, the sky's not orange anymore, it's pink. Who cares about the color of the sky? The track is good. There's some boats you jump over. It's pretty interesting. There's like a few. It's a great track. There's a lot to it. And I know some of the turns are really weird, but like they're kind of good weird. I don't know. There's like it's still a bit city track, which is why it doesn't get into S tier. But like it's a fun city track. It's one of the better city tracks. Definitely better. The best city track of, or it's not even the best city track of Wave 4 though. At 9, we have Piranha Plant Cove, Promenade Cove is pretty fun. It's a nice underwater track where you drive underwater. There's definitely some simple parts with not much to it, but it's still a pretty fun track with a pretty good theme, which is why it lands it in the A tier. There's some you drive through caves, underwater. I don't know. There's so many fun stuff. There's so much fun stuff to this track, but it definitely isn't the greatest thing ever, of course. At 38, we have Animal Crossing, which is the one with all the different seasons. And here's my ranking of the seasons right now. The worst season's probably summer because there's in the Animal Crossing track because the trees are it's the most basic one. Then there's spring, which is pretty good. It's still pretty basic, but at least the trees are like have the pink like cherry blossoms. Then there's fall Animal Crossing, which is pretty good. There's so much fun to be had. It's like a nice sunset fall track, which fall is my favorite real season. But like winter Animal Crossing is just the best one of the tracks because it's just good. This track is pretty fun though. There's so many jumps. You drive on the beach. You drive like you take a few fun turns. There's the tree section. There's a lot of fun sections in this one, and there's so many fun references to Animal Crossing to the Animal Crossing series too, which is what definitely lands this track high up here at A tier at 38. At 37, we have Roma Avanti, which is pretty fun. You drive to the Coliseum. There's some other things. It's fun turns, fun monuments you drive through and past. It's a pretty good track. There are some problems, or it's still a pretty simple city track, but it definitely is a really good city track. With I don't know, I just really like the vibes, and I can't really explain why I like them. Just the vibes are so good. Just nice, calm nighttime Rome. I don't know, just a fun idea. And like the song, the music is also pretty good. Yeah, it's a pretty good track. 36, we have Amsterdam Drift, the best Wave 4 city track. And now this is probably the most controversial take in the whole video is how high I put this track. But it's just so good. I don't know, the underwater section and the trenches. There's so much you like drive into like the countryside, the tulip fields. The water section is definitely the best part about this track. It's really fun. That's pretty good vibes. The song is kind of weird, but other than that, this track is really good. There's a lot. It's pretty fun. There's some difficult turns to it also, which make the track pretty good. It's a pretty good track, and I do really like it. It's definitely not the best city track because it's still better city tracks to come, but it's still up there. 35, we have GameCube Daisy Cruiser, and it's just like it's basically just the Mario Kart 7 version again. Which, if you want to hear my take on this track, I don't really want to explain it again. Mario Kart 7 ranking. Go look at it, and the original ranking also, but it's not like the original. The original is better, but yeah, it's like because they had the weird underwater pool and like got rid of a few fun elements and made the track more easy by making the pool go underwaterable from the original. And the original already wasn't S tier because I don't know. I just there's some parts of this track that are dull. Yeah, like I said I wouldn't explain it, and I explained it, but whatever. Let's just move on. 34, Wario's Goldmine. This track doesn't feel like a roller coaster anymore as much. It's still a fun track, but it definitely doesn't feel like a roller coaster anymore. Because like the original was like, oh, like the Mario Kart Wii controls made it feel like a fun roller coaster. Also, the anti-gravity section kind of ruins it, and the fact that the mine carts don't actually act as obstacles anymore are kind of what ruined this track. But yeah, we are. It's a pretty fun track, and yeah, let's move on. 33, we have Electrodrome, not S tier. I don't care what anyone says. People act like Electrodrome is so peak, but I don't know. There's a lot of parts that just aren't that are pretty dull. It's a really well themed track, and it's really fun to see like all the enemies dancing on the screens and the piranha plants bopping their heads. There's so much fun to be had aesthetically with this track, but it's all in the aesthetics, and there's not much in the actual gameplay of this track. But yeah, and also does that first Goliath section really need to be there? Yeah, it's like yeah. Well, guys, that's it for part 2. Stay tuned for part 3, the final part, and then after that, we have to rank Mario Kart World. Yep, part 3 will be a really fun one. Yeah, see ya.